Hello, welcome to the Elevate Your Wellbeing podcast. We are on episode 14. Oh, it feels so good coming on here and recording these every single week. But I want to dive into something before I dive into our topic for this week. So before I do, I'm going to start off like I always do every podcast episode. I like to start you off how I start off my lives when I'm in the Rise and Shine Wellbeing community, my membership that I run, which is make sure you have light on you, whatever time of day you're watching this or listening to this. I say watching this because I have got this on my YouTube channel as well as being on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts, which is amazing. So unless you're listening to this in the evening, if you're listening to this at any time throughout the day, like morning, afternoon, early afternoon, into your evening, when it's light outside, get some light on you. It will really make a difference. So we are light beings. We are ruled by, essentially, with our energy, by the sun. So by getting natural light on you, you actually help yourself feel better, you'll feel energized, you'll actually improve your sleep as well. And that's why I go on about make sure you have some light on you. So make sure curtains are open or you're outside. If it's evening, make sure that you prioritize this tomorrow morning. Make sure you have some water as well. Have a little sip throughout. Stay hydrated. And if you're listening to this in the morning, make sure you have some water before, I'll say that again, before you have your coffee or caffeinated beverage of choice. It will help you feel so much more focused. Right. Water and natural light on you. Whether it's overcast, it doesn't matter, but make sure you have some light on you. And before I dive in to this week's topic, which feels really apt, actually, I've been thinking about this for a while and reflecting on this. And one of the mentorships I'm in, this container, which is for about 8 weeks, so I'm about halfway through, and it's working on shadow work, why we do what we do, why we hold ourselves back, which I feel is very relevant to this week's topic. And why I've been doing this, some of the shadow work I've been doing is when I'm very comfortable around someone, if I'm comfortable with someone who really feels like a friend and I can really dive into a topic I feel really passionate about, then the odd swear word will come out. Now, some of you might be like, what? Rachel doesn't swear, because I do try to be really, really insanely professional. And I can hear my mentor in my head going, well, what on earth is that about? Actually, she wouldn't say that. But even now, I can feel myself holding myself back. And this is the key thing I really feel like I wanted to do the podcast, is because I'm very much a Gemini, very much an air sign. I very much relate to words and just allowing them to flow. And like I said, when I feel really comfortable with someone, if you're feeling like a friend or a close family member, or even a colleague that feels very much like a friend, and we're both chatting about a topic that we feel very passionate about, then that can come through from me with being passionate. And a key thing I really, really remember, I don't remember whereabouts in my career, and I'm saying that again with air quotes, like I said, professional. I can remember it being at my yoga studio, and I can remember which student it was. And as people were coming in, we were chatting about a event that was coming up. And I was really excited about it. It's something I was wanting to do for ages, and this person was getting really excited about it. And I kind of, some people would say, forgot where I was, or I forgot myself. And I was like, it's going to be fucking amazing. I cannot wait. And it slipped. And this person kind of looked up, not the person I was chatting to, someone who had walked in for the class. And then there was a part of me that felt really liberated. So when some other people started chatting about it and asking about it, it kind of came through again. Now I can understand why this person then contacted me afterwards, saying it was really unprofessional. I found it really rude. And I can understand certain words can trigger people, which is why on this podcast, you'll see the explicit like E label. So if you see that, then I will from now on, which I apologize because I haven't done it from now, but there is that on here as well. If you see that and you do get offended by swear words, then I do apologize, but they do just come out when I'm really in my authentic self, because I feel really passionate and it's just how I express myself. And I do not see my podcast as a professional extension of myself as a yoga teacher, and I do really sort of refrain and hold myself back. So I sometimes have to really think about my words with how I express myself. But I really want the podcast to be a more relaxed place where I can express myself and share what's on my mind. And hopefully it relates to you. So if you see that, then either, if you're still listening, because you've chosen to listen, thank you very much, but it might be something that you decide to do with headphones in, for example. So please keep that in mind. But I really wanted to be a guide, lead from example. And that was really, really coming up for me. Considering this is episode 14, this has been going for 3.5, can't count now, 3.5 months. And I've really refrained myself. So I apologize for holding myself back. I apologize for not being my true self, as though we are literally sitting at that, at the kitchen table or sitting, having a coffee somewhere and just really being able to express ourselves. And sometimes there are specific words that really do have that come through, but I know I'm holding back and refraining who I am coming through with regards to that. So little tangent / apology, and let's dive in to this week's topic. And if you have got any comments about that, let me know. I'd be really intrigued. But at the same time, this is who I am. I'm going to own it. Okay, so this week I'm talking about the best word to have in your toolbox. It's the hardest word to say, but it is your best friend. And that word is no. No, 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 no. Now, some of you that know what I say with regard to the word no might be thinking, oh, does that mean the moon is in Taurus? No, because I always joke that Taurus is the energy of the toddler of the zodiac. And that word that toddlers really own really well is the word no. No. We are actually moving towards the full moon in Virgo. And Virgo can, when they're in their shadow self, so I've already spoken a little bit about my shadow self, but when Virgo are in their shadow self, they can be the people pleaser. And we're coming up for a full moon, and full moon is illuminating what we need to let go of. Are you people pleasing? That is one of the things that I want you to really focus on today. And also, I haven't mentioned it because I really wanted to dive into that. Apology. Do you have your journal ready? So that might be something you already journal on as you listen to this episode. Am I a people pleaser? Am I doing things because I feel I should do them rather than because I want to do them? And that can be where we really tie ourselves up in knots, because it's like, I don't want to do it, but I feel like I should do it because I don't want to let the person down, or I feel guilty. And we let all this rubbish sit on our shoulders or sit in our mind or sit in our stomach and tie our stomach up in knots, because what we really need to do is say no. No, 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 no. And one of I think she literally was my first ever proper mentor, someone I actually paid to work with. Whereas there are people where, you might follow someone and you like their advice that they give you. But I don't see that person as a mentor until I've actually exchanged that energy of, I'm going to pay you something to really dive deeper into the topics that you share online. And that's how I felt with this person. And one of her mottos is getting on the no train. And it's not about learning, not about knowing, but it is literally that train of no. I'm not stopping at this station. I'm not stopping at this station. No, 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 no. Learning the power of no. And it can feel really hard. And I'd love to hear from you. Do you find saying no challenging? Now, you might be listening to this and be like, no, I don't. I am very happy saying no. Fantastic, fabulous. Please stay in that power. But if you do, one, don't feel bad for yourself. Don't feel sorry for yourself. It's so normal for a lot of people to say no, or to not find, let me say that again. I'm getting tongue-tied now. It's so normal, so easy for a lot of us to find our place, to find us in that place of, I really want to say no, but I don't want to let the person down. We find it really challenging to be able to say no. And I can really relate to this, because this is how I felt when I was at school. I can remember friends asking me to do something with them, and it was maybe going to an event, and I was like, it really does interest me. And I have really learned over the years to follow my gut instinct of, if I don't want to do something, then I have the right to say no. But then I was like, well, they have this extra ticket and they obviously want to go with someone and they've asked me, so I should feel appreciative, because if I'm rejecting them, then I'm not showing, that I want to receive something like that, because obviously it's nice, isn't it, when you're invited to do things, but is it really something you want to do? But then you're doing that person a disservice, because if you're there because you should be rather than you want to be, that energy will come off. And then you're actually stopping them from asking someone who would really love to go. And I can remember with this very specific event, I was at secondary school, and I can remember this friend asking me to go to this event, and I felt really bad, but I actually said, no, thank you. No, thank you. It's not something I really want to go and do. No, thank you. And then they asked someone else. And I can remember going back into school on the Monday and hearing about it from the person they actually asked. And she was raving about it, so much so that she made me feel like, oh, I feel like I might have missed out. But I realized it was because of how they were talking about it. So by me saying no meant that this other person got the invite and got to really enjoy it. And that felt very empowering. And if you're always being asked to do something, and I know this can be really challenging, I really do highlight things like mum guilt with regards to this, because, when you have children, they depend on you, but it's also very empowering for them to learn to be independent. And if you've already got something in your diary, and how many times do you go, oh yeah, it's fine, I can move that, or you don't even say that you had something, you just say, yeah, no, that's fine, I can do that, I can help. And you're actually going into a form of self-abandonment, because you're giving up your time for something that would really be beneficial for you. Like if you're giving up time for yoga, or if you're giving up time to meditate, or you're sacrificing your morning routine, or something like that, which you feel could be very easily, oh, it's fine, I can do it later, or etc., etc. But there's actually a form of self-abandonment and self-sabotage, because you're sacrificing something that would really help you mentally, physically, emotionally, by putting this other person first. And it's honoring that, yes, that could feel like a right thing to do. It could feel like the good thing to do, the good Samaritan. But if you're always doing it, then you're being a people pleaser, and you're not standing in your power of your boundaries. And I really wanted to highlight this, because in my newsletter this week that went out on Monday, this episode is airing on the 3rd of March. This would have gone out on the 27th. I really wanted to highlight boundaries, because I'd realized I had let some boundaries slack. I was being too accessible to my clients, and it was something that I really don't like, being overly accessible, because if you can message me via text message, or you can email me, or you can message me through WhatsApp or Voxer, or on Instagram, or on Facebook, and then Facebook could be to the business page or to my personal page. It's all over the place, and it makes me feel very much all over the place. So I reset that boundary of, if you need to get hold of me for a question, or to let me know that you can't attend anything, or you're running late, for example, then text or email only. And it's setting it that, don't expect me to reply straight away. And I've even got a VA now that replies for me, and she is amazing. And I was like, no, I'm still going to set some boundaries with my times for that. So emails will only be answered, say, Monday to Friday between this time and this time, and they might be checked only on a Saturday between this time and this time if I have an event on, because that's when I might be checking to see if you've had any last minute questions, or you're suddenly running late and you're trying to find some information. And it's really, really, because we're so accessible when we're online. And it's amazing how many emails I've had in the last couple of years of someone chasing up my response. And it's like, I sort of said I will aim to reply within 48 hours, but that wasn't enough. That wasn't being adhered to by clients, especially when it was over a weekend, for example. So it was like, right, I need that VA to support me with this so I could step away from my email. And you might still get an email from me, but they'll first go through my VA, which is amazing. And it's also highlighting that even through that form of communication, there is still that time boundary of there'll be answer between this time and this time, and or they'll be checked between this time and this time. So it's honoring those boundaries there. And this is how no can feel really hard, but it's also your best friend. It's getting used to saying no, getting used to saying this is my expectation, because boundaries help you feel safe. It's you know what to expect. When there are no boundaries there, that's when we overthink what's going to be happening. And a lot of the time, when we don't look after ourselves, so we don't make time for our self-care, or we don't focus on our day, and we're like, oh, I'm just not very good at planning. I've got an issue with my time and how I focus and plan my day, or I've got an issue around how I plan out my self-care or my morning routine, or I'm just not very good at being consistent. It's actually a boundary. It's all boundary issues. Setting a boundary, setting an expectation of what your day is going to be like and what other people can expect from you. And a big thing that's really helped with me is setting that boundary. And you can start, if it's easier, with people at home. So between this time and this time is for me, unless it's an emergency. You could start with your work. Now, this might feel easier if you are a business owner like I am, because you get to plan your day, but you could structure your day still at work if you have, if you're an employee rather than the employer or the business owner. But you can time block, schedule out your day to how it will feel best for you. And if it feels good to move something around for something else, good, but don't do it because you feel like you should or because you have to. So time blocking is really, really empowering. And you might decide to set those boundaries with people you work with first. It's like, well, I'm at, setting out your calendar. I'm at in a meeting in between this time and this time, and I'm not available in any other form until I'm out of that meeting. Send me an email, and I will know to check them when I come out of the meeting. However it works for you. But no can start to be your best friend because you're honoring and respecting your needs and your self-care and those boundaries of what you need to expect. And there's a song that's been on repeat on my playlist for a while now, and it really, really sort of rang true to me earlier today before recording this, which it was highlighting that no can be scary, because if we ask for something and we're going to expect no, then we don't want to ask. We're afraid to go for no. And there's actually so much around this, especially in the business world with regards to mentorship, which I think there is literally a book called Go for No. Go for the no. Because it's so empowering that you're putting yourself out there, that this person will say no, this person will say no. But if you play those odds, you will get a yes. It's just finding the right person. Like I was saying earlier with a friend asking me to go to an event, I wasn't the right person to say yes. So it's no can feel scary, because if you want to ask for something, but you assume, or you're afraid of hearing no, you're afraid of being rejected, then is saying no to someone else how that feels for you. You don't want them to feel rejected because that's what you think you will feel if you hear that from someone else. So as you get your journal out, and I've asked you already a question about, are you doing something because you feel you should do it? Are you doing something because you feel you have to do it? I know you might be like, well, part of my job. There's a big difference between that. That's your responsibility. But if you're feeling like you're doing something to keep everyone happy, just to keep the calm and the peace, then that's self-sabotage, self-sacrifice, self-abandonment. Are you not saying no because you're afraid that you're going to hear more no's? you fear no, or you fear rejection. And then the big part, really, the main journaling prompt I really would love to give you before I finish off this week's episode is, how can I start putting my needs first? How can I start putting my needs first? How can I start putting my needs first? And it's okay to put your needs first. Sometimes you have to honor that. And it always reminds me of the focus of, when the oxygen masks come down and when you're in a plane, and the air steward or stewardess will say, make sure you put your own mask on before you assist others. Because without that oxygen mask, you're no good to them. You could help them, but then they might not be able to help you, because ironically, they couldn't put their own mask on. So make sure you focus on putting your oxygen mask on first. How can you put your needs first? So thank you for joining me for this week's episode. If you have any questions or any ahas about this, or would like to dive into this a bit more, do get in touch. There are the links in the show notes if you would like to join the Rise and Shine Wellbeing membership. So we do daily 15-minute practices. That's 1% of your day focusing on your self-care. Or if you would like to dive in for more mentorship, I have 90 minutes, that's an hour and a half, coaching session. So we're one-on-one over Zoom, and we can dive into this. So if you do actually think, oh, wow, I actually don't have any boundaries and I need to work on this, but I don't really know how to start, that's one huge, beautiful part of being coached, having a mentor one-on-one, because we can dive into that. So we can look at that together and then give you some tools to take away and help you to create those boundaries. So thank you very much for joining me. If you enjoyed this, please do give it a like. Please do share. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can subscribe. If you'd like to get in touch, the details to get in touch are in the show notes. Otherwise, have a wonderful weekend, and I look forward to joining you next week.